During long update droughts this year for Xaria, I've frequently played Forsaken, a game which plays entirely different from our favorite turn-based deck builder. Unfortunately, that also means that I ran into guest 1337, and let me tell you, nothing kills the mood faster than seeing the survivor on my team. The percentage of competent guests I see in matches is lower than souls cut from the game. It's so bad to use that I would rather play an actually usable sentinel for the game footage in this video. It is criminal how guest 1337, a character from one of the most memorable pieces of Roblox media on YouTube, was butchered this hard in Forsaken, and it's today's topic on the channel. We're breaking down everything that's wrong with this survivor, from its base stats, its sentinel gimmick, how it's unconditionally worse than every other sentinel in the game, and how to fix the survivor. Let's get into the video. Guest 1337 is the textbook example of a noob trap. A survivor you can easily get in the shop that looks promising on paper, yet fails to accomplish anything meaningful in practice. For those who don't know, Guest is a sentinel survivor with 3 skills, 1 passive, and 1 undocumented passive. We'll be going over these 2 skills in a bit, because I have some choice words for them. But for now, let's go over everything else. Charge is a skill that moves you forward, and upon hitting a killer, it disables their abilities for 1.25 seconds, and makes Guest invincible for the same duration. Failing to land this ability on a killer instead gives Guest slowness 2 for 3 times your distance from the nearest killer divided by 13. This sounds great, but is outclassed in almost every way by Veronica's bumper skate, and honestly also phase skate, which doesn't just have a faster cooldown, but charges her battery for her self-heal, a trait that Guest doesn't have at all in his kit. There's also 0 downsides for missing the killer with Veronica's skate. I thought I'd also mention that. You're gonna use charge to escape a killer? Remember, it gives you slowness 2 if you fail to hit a killer with it. Guest glazers will always go on about,
"Oh, but charge is this really good ability that makes Guest OP and S tier."
You just knocked back the killer from a Shadletsky slash. Yes, I'm sure you really helped out your team there. Guest's hidden hit priority is alright until you realize it doesn't even work on both slashers and sixers attacks. And once again, you have no method of self-sustain in your kit, and reliable supports aren't a guarantee. The only 100% good thing from this class is its extra 15 health through its made to last passive, and is the only reason people unironically run Guest. But there's 2 other skills we haven't talked about yet, which have completely run the survivor's reputation into the ground. 2 skills which turned what could have been a decent defensive-based sentinel into a lol cow. It's time to discuss block and punch. Guest 1337 finds more successful blocks when removing the immeasurable hate mail he gets daily. First off, Guest's stun ability, Punch, is unusable, and requires the usage of a different skill to charge it, this being block. Now, this alone wouldn't be a huge issue. Chance is one of the best characters in the game, and his one-shot ability is locked behind hitting heads on his coin flip ability. This isn't too hard to achieve, as it's just a 50-50. The hard part is hitting heads 3 times to max out the odds of a one-shot success. Although, if things go wrong maxing out your one-shot charges, you still always have a 1 or 2 charge one-shot you can use. However, we then go back to Guest, and the problem very obviously shows itself. You have to use block to block a melee attack to gain a charge for punch. Not use block, but actually block an attack with it. After blocking a melee attack, you'll also get speed 1 for 2 seconds, and the killer will be slowed by 30% for 1 second, giving you a slightly better chance to land a punch. If you landed a block, which you didn't, because the killer has a brain cell and knows how to bait out a block. When going for blocks, you're playing a mental game with a killer, and they're always at an advantage since they're the ones controlling if an attack is being thrown. The result from this are so-called Guest mains, throwing themselves at the killer and failing to land a block, dying so early in the match that you could swap them out with one of those clocks that give you extra time in Mario games, and I wouldn't see the difference. And note how I said melee attack, not any attack. That corrupt nature or mass infection hurled at you isn't going to give you a charge, and that mass infection is still applying poison and glitch to you. All of this for a stun that's equal to 2 times sacrificial dagger, which simply requires a backstab, and only 0.5 seconds longer than Shadletsky slash. Wait, you hesitated for a second? Oh, I'm sorry, I meant 1.5 seconds less than 2 times Sacrificial Dagger, and 1 second less than Shadletsky Slash. All those hoops to jump through just to get barely anything over the other Sentinel options. It truly begs the question, why would you run this over any other Sentinel if you want to win? If you're running Guest for anything besides leveling for milestones, pick another Sentinel. It's as simple as that. You have no reason to run Guest 1337 besides going for his milestone skins, and even then, why do it for as lackluster a survivor as Guest? Just to go over everything again, in exchange for landing a block, which, let's be honest, will likely not happen against a competent killer, you're getting a stun equal in duration to 2 times stun, which just requires you to land a backstab and also comes with a 20 health heal, something Guest doesn't get. You are getting a stun that is only 0.5 seconds longer than Shadletsky Slash. 0.5 seconds. You're insane if you want me to believe that playing mind games with a killer firmly in the driver's seat the whole time is worth 0.5 seconds of extra stun time. Chance's stun is ranged, which is already enough of an upside to put it above Guest's punch, but if you want to go for more of a close quarter stun, then don't worry, its max stun duration is longer than Guest's too. A slightly shorter cooldown means nothing when you're still dependent on landing block to get to punch. What niche would I reasonably want to use Guest 1337 for besides the extra health? Thank you. If you run Guest, you are nothing more than an extra 30 seconds on the clock for the killer because you can and will miss a block, then watch that extra 15 health you chose Guest for and more disappear. If you're quote-unquote competent enough to use block, just cut out the middleman and avoid taking damage from the killer's attacks entirely by looping him and managing your stamina. 1337 Glazers will try and defend this failed gimmick by saying,
"Oh, but he needs skill to be OP, guys!"
You could have taken that skill and put it into any other Sentinel for better results. If you want a Sentinel with a consistent stun, just use Shadletsky as he has a bit of damage resistance when you use Slash and only gives up half a second of stun time. If you want a Sentinel that's tanky, I'm gonna be honest, use literally any other Sentinel than the supposed tank Sentinel. Shadletsky is a reliable self-heal in the form of fried chicken. 2 times Sacrificial Dagger heals on not just a backstab but a front stab too, and of course we can't forget the second life you can go for with 2 time. Even Chance is something for his survivability, being able to use reroll to increase his health to amounts above Guest 1337. And if you want a survivor that actually requires skill to be good, N7 is right there. Guest is a Sentinel without a semblance of consistency and a tank without actual methods to sustain itself. And if you've been on the channel for a while, you know that last part isn't gonna fly here. Guest 1337 is flawed, but there are ways to fix his design so he can be useful. I have 3 reworks which could each accomplish this, and in this section I'll be going over them. The 3 separate concepts will aim to accomplish a couple of goals. First off, they'll make Guest 1337's kit much more consistent. A huge issue of Guest 1337's kit is that you're playing mind games with the killer in order to get your stun ability compared to the other Sentinels, which either always have theirs on hand or can flip coins out of chase to access it. These mind games are always fundamentally going to be in a disadvantageous state for the Guest, and this will need to be taken into consideration when coming up with a change. Second, Guest's block needs to be more rewarding to pull off. Just a stun from successfully blocking a melee attack isn't going to cut it, especially when the killer can very easily bluff an attack to bait out a block. The payout for all the effort in mind games needs to be worth it. Third, Guest needs to keep his weakness to projectiles. Ranged attacks are easy to capture the block, so if we're going above block, we're going to have to keep that susceptibility to ranged attacks as a compromise. Our first rework goes all in on Guest's ability to stun the killer. His punch will no longer require a block to enable, but instead, blocking an attack will instantly remove the cooldown for punch. Punch will also get an actual cooldown duration now. I'm thinking somewhere between 40 to 50 seconds, so you have an incentive to go for blocks. This makes it so you have a reliable stun option, but you can always go for a block to drop its cooldown if you need it again. That being said, you're not forced to block anymore for a punch, which is something that'll greatly help out Guest. The second rework takes an entirely different path, opting to help out Guest's tankiness. All the other sentinels have a self-heal, or in Chance's case, max health manipulation. 15 extra health doesn't matter when you're usually losing more than double of that on a failed block and don't have a way to at least heal some of that back. Guest's block now heals some health upon successfully blocking melee damage. Die of Death is a game with a lot of great ideas for the asym killer genre, and a block ability that heals you on success is one of them. Now, Guest 1337 can actually utilize its tankiness as long as it can keep hitting blocks, also making block, actually rewarding to use. This could also be paired with Rework 1, but I'm not sure, so I just made it an entirely different rework concept. Our third rework is a combination of the previous reworks. Punch will not require a block to enable, but landing a melee block will remove the cooldown for it, and Punch will gain a proper cooldown duration. The difference being that if you land a parry punch, you'll heal a bit of health from that now. This is the best of both worlds, giving Guest a consistent stun ability, but also another incentive to go for blocks, as a successful one can heal himself if he pulls off a parry with it. Worst comes to worst, if any of these reworks truly push Guest 1337 over the edge, like the potential balancers will claim, he could get a nerf in health by 5. Saying Guest 1337 is the worst sentinel in the game is too generous, because the current state of him makes for the worst survivor in the game, period. A sentinel with less consistency than the gambling one, a tank with no way to heal himself, and outclassed in every regard. Guest glazers can call him as OP as they want, but deep down, they'll always know that he's a masterclass in mediocrity. See ya.